So my apologies, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Mudavadi. I'm your MC for this evening. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this evening we also have people from other integral stakeholder groups ranging from the private sector, the business community, and the diplomatic corps. I'll call upon a few of them to speak on behalf of those integral stakeholder segments. So I'll start with Mr. Kiprono Kitonyi to speak on behalf of the business community. Kiprono is the immediate former chairman of the Kenya National, former president of the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry.
Thank you very much, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, Tessie Mudavadi and family, leading lights in the room. I think there are so many people, and I'd like to start by saying, like my learned friend, Yekuma Murkomen, looking around the room, I'm also nervous because I'm not used to speaking to so many politicians. But I think I'd like to start by congratulating Honorable Mudavadi for taking the courage to chronicle his life. And I think as Kenyans, we owe him a debt of gratitude for the service that he's rendered to our nation. The adjectives that I would say, and I think I'll give a perspective from the private sector. What is our outlook on Musalia Mudavadi? I would use adjectives like honest, consistent, steady, reliable, and trustworthy. And I think if we look around leadership in Kenya today, I think very many of those attributes that I've just mentioned are lacking. I don't know, one day, Chief Executive of a leading telco said that Kenyans are very peculiar. Because if we look at the character and the service that Musalia Mudavadi has rendered to this nation, it is a wonder why he would not be in elected office today. Let me speak about the last attribute, which is trustworthiness. Sitting in a foreign capital with three other leading Kenyan business people, we asked ourselves, what is the quality that you would like in your leader? And I want to qualify my last statement. I'm a father of daughters. And I asked the question, if you were to leave town at short notice and leave your daughters who are beyond puberty in a house of a leader and know that they are safe because you have nobody at home to take care of them and there's no close relative, who would that leader be? We came up with less than 3 names. And on top of the list was Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. So I look forward to reading your book. People might dispute the contents of it. And like Honorable Murkomen, I also tender my application if ever you are sent to a higher office. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have with us in the House perhaps one of the most experienced politicians we have in this country, a former legislator, and a diplomat per se, a technocrat, and a renowned lawyer, Honorable Julius Sunkoli. Honorable Sunkoli, please, to make a few remarks.
Honorable Musalia Mudavadi and Honorable distinguished guests, I think unlike the Senator for Elgeyo Marakwet, I'm in the right meeting. And I'm in the right meeting because, first of all, we really congratulate you, Wycliffe, for the book that you have written. I think you are joining a new crop of politicians and leaders in Kenya who are actually putting their thoughts into writing. Because somebody once said, bury my bones but keep my words. I think today you have words that you are leaving for the Kenyan public to look at, and they can be able to analyze not just yourself, but in fact the future, the past of our country, for the benefit of the future. If more of us could write our books, and it is not a question of courage, it's a question of decision, that we do not leave our country blank and don't read autobiographies of Europeans and Americans who are good at it, but in fact make our own here. I congratulate you very much because you and I have been in cabinet before. I was in the cabinet that you were in. And I can attest to one thing, that if ever there was a gentleman of Kenyan politics, it's you. And that your pronunciations currently show that you are trying to bring people together. I can see everybody here. I can see my friend Chris Murungaru from the past. I can see Murkomen here. I can see other people. It is a very diverse audience, and that's why I think really you bringing this together should be the reality of Kenya. And I know that we have been told that the current thing in fashion is BBI. I think this is the real demonstration of BBI. I've read BBI, and I've seen what it says about bringing Kenyans together. And it's in fashion, of course, to say that I support BBI. And I think I don't want to be out of fashion. But I think also that because Amos Wako is here, I find that there are a few missing pages in the BBI. And we must remember that although we say we are one Kenya, but we are actually very different, very many communities. And the purpose of BBI must be to bring together all these communities. And I think you must reconsider this thing about tyranny of numbers. Because those of us from minority communities, we obeyed the order and kept the population low. And now we are using that against us. I think that you must write into the BBI how we are going to protect the minorities. And write into BBI how I, maybe after the next one, or my child can actually become president of Kenya. Because the way it is now, the emphasis is on the big numbers. And we are telling you, we are there, we obeyed your order. We hope that Musalia can continue to be the light that shows us that we want to come together. Please don't sway away from the middle road. It is very, very important. God always blesses the peacemakers. And may you be blessed by this. And as I end, I say with those few words, may God bless Kenya.
Okay, once more you are aware, as I do, that Honorable Mudavadi has got sentimental attachment and passion for matters economy and econometrics. And perhaps in this room, the best person, based on his working relationship with Mudavadi, who will talk about Mudavadi from that perspective, is none other than the former governor of the central bank, Mika Cheserem. Please, Mr. Cheserem.
Good evening. I think many of you do not know me because I come from another era. But basically, let me tell you how I came to know Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. At 4 o'clock on a Friday, July 23rd, in 1993, I was home for Unilever, Malawi. Somebody rings me and says, Mr. Cheserem, congratulations. I told him, for what? He said, you have been made governor of Central Bank of Kenya. I never applied. I'm in Malawi. How is it? In the evening, I rang President Moy and I say, Your Excellency, I've been appointed. He said, congratulations. Please be at work on Monday. I told him, but sir, I'm working for a multinational company. He said, in that case, come on Tuesday. Truly, I came on Tuesday, and within two days, I met Honorable Mudavadi. Unbeknown to me, I had never known that there was a serious breakdown at the Central Bank of Kenya. Central Bank of Kenya basically has been captured by external forces as well as the staff of the Central Bank. So I went to see the Minister for Finance. I had never met him. And I told him, what are we going to do? Because in the country, inflation was running at 100%. Those who are very older than you remember. Inflation was running 100%. The shilling was losing value. Foreign exchange was 2 weeks cover, not 4 months. And the banking system was really distressed. So I asked Monsieur Mudavadi, was actually a young person. He had been made minister. He skipped from being assistant minister. I think it was 33 only. But Honorable Mudavadi Hassan was a very good team leader. We talked to the donors. We moved very support, and to make sure exchange controls do not come back, we destroyed every document that talked of exchange controls. I think there are about 47 lorries that went to Karura to ban. Wow. The C's, I don't know, C39, blah, blah. If you are to travel out of Kenya, they will take your passport, stamp at the back, how many dollars they gave you. Do you remember? Yes. Do you remember? There was no forex bureaus. So when we wanted to open, I asked them what we do. He said, this time don't call the IMF. Call Ugandans because they have got it. Tell them to come, set them up. And he said, in every building, Sarit Center put one, every big building put a one forex bureau. On one condition, when you declare you are going to pay 101 shillings per dollar, that's what you will pay. No commissions. We also came up with another rule, a law. Up until 1993, the government of Kenya would overdraw at the central bank. If the government gave you a check, it was going to be honored. Between Mudavadi and the IMF, there was a law to be written that government of Kenya can only borrow up to 5% of the last revenue. And all checks of government must be cleared first with the treasury. I remember we were in one meeting and one permanent secretary, they were actually not permanent, they were being changed almost. So, this permanent secretary asked the president, Mr. President, now that this central bank has refused to lend government money, why don't we open our own commercial bank which will lend us money? Moi was a very wise man. He didn't answer. So, we actually restricted government from lending money, central bank from lending money to national government. I'm a farmer these days. I don't read newspapers. I don't watch my TV, but I understand government of Kenya is it broke or run out of money? Something like that. If it was that era, they will simply overdraw the central bank. So you really must thank Honorable Mudavadi for exchange control removal, for restricted government borrowing. There was a lot of problems in the banking sector. Some banks were closed down, some were merged, as a part of cleaning up the banking system. But I can tell you one thing, Mheshimiwa Mudavadi has got very good diplomatic skills. If there is one difficult person, and don't tell him, President Moi, we will turn up there and he will say, what have you come for? You want me to sacrifice my politics. He has been made to believe that the reforms, every reform is a sacrifice for Kanu. If you remove exchange controls, Kanu is sacrificing. Ridiculous. So, after 4 years, I think Honorable Mudavadi, the success made for him a lot of enemies. So by 1997, the IMF really, Mudavadi was no longer being listened to a lot. In 97, elections, 98, they moved him out. And who came to the Minister of Finance? Simeon Nyachae, who was real critic for Mudavadi, because we had applied to reform the maize sector. Nyachae said, Mr. President, we can allow Mudavadi reform the maize sector, but you can only move 10 bags of maize into a lorry. 10 bags! It's a joke. So Nyachae comes, Mheshimiwa, he didn't last for 6 months, because in April 98, in Mombasa, he said, he was a man who was very forthright, very forceful. He said, Kenya, government of Kenya finances, Moi was told, Mzee, Nyachae has really talked very badly about you. This man was removed, Nyachai was removed. Who came in the scene? Mr. Masakalia. Mr. Masakalia was not there for long. But there was another team called the Dream Team. Dream Team, they were supposed to bring miracles. 10 gentlemen were supposed to bring miracles. They believed in it. But sadly, they just ended as a dream. I left the place when one minister, Honorable Okemo, he came in. I can't say much about him. So I had 4 ministers, many permanent secretaries who were never permanent. So, Mheshimiwa Mudavadi, I really want to thank you. I have gone through the book. It's a well written. Some of these things I'm telling you are not in the book, but clearly there are not many people like Honorable Mudavadi because his man is very calm, he's not emotional, and the gentleman listens. We need a lot of reforms in Kenya. It is very sad that this country, with so much potential, I'm in rural Kenya, and the young people who come to see me looking for jobs are really so many. Because those in public office, many have decided they have been appointed to loot and not to serve. So with those few words, Mheshimiwa, congratulations. I've read the book. It's a good book, but you need to write another one as you go up. And one final thing, I'm not asking you for any job. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Keseren. At this time, I want to recognize the presence of other distinguished guests who are with us in the House. Honorable Murunga, MP for Matung, Honorable Murunga has just joined us. We have Mr. Philip Kisia, former town clerk of Nairobi. We have Mr. Dickson Omondi, the director of NDI, the National Democratic Institute, which is a major sponsor of quite a number of political activities for the political parties. Then we have the chairperson of the political parties liaison committee, Mr. Irungu Nyakera, is a former principal secretary as well. We have Professor Amukoya Anangwe, he had not yet been recognized. And we have got several MCAs from all over the country, yeah, stemming from Lamu to as far as Turkana. Next, as you are aware, Honorable Mudavadi had a remarkable stint as leader of government business in Parliament. Perhaps the best person who will give us his story from a parliamentary perspective, and somebody who is also one of the longest serving legislators in this country, is none other than Honorable Farah Maalim, who is also a Deputy Speaker of Parliament. Karibu Farah.
I promise not. Let me go through the protocols. Honorable Madam Minister, who is the guest of honor, and our former deputy leader of our party those days, he was the leader of the government business in the House for a stint, Honorable Mudavadi, who has written this book. All protocols observed. I want to tell you one thing. I'm not going to take a long time. I'm not that well used to this kind of conversations, but I will tell you one thing. There was one time a Muslim clergy gave a speech to a congregation that was mainly non-Muslim. And the speech was based on the surah of the ant. And it took a very long time. And he said, now I'll go to the surah of the elephant. And everybody started walking out of that place. Little did they know that the surah of the elephant is, or the verse of the elephant is a very short one, and the one of the ant is a long one. So now that you have listened to former governor of Central Bank, and he has taken quite some time, now that the politician has come in, the presumption will be he's going to take a long time, and it will be a political speech. Far from it, mine will be very short. I first met Honorable Mudavadi when I think he was 29 years old as a Minister for Supplies and Marketing. newly appointed after the death of his father, who also had a very flowery political and public service career. I was in the business of the export. I was in the commodity business, and I used to export commodities out of this country to the neighboring countries, mainly for relief purposes. And you had to have 13 licenses before you can export a grain of anything out of this country. You have to go to the Minister of Supplies, Minister of Agriculture, Central Bank, Trade, and God knows what, 13 different licenses. At that very young age, we used to have some nice discussions in his office, which was in Maendeleo. Is it Maendeleo House? Yeah, somewhere around there. And he was full of very soft, very diplomatic, at that age, extremely sober and stable, but at the same time, he knew what he intended to do for the government on such matters. And he promised me, over a period of time, it will take time, but we'll remove all these things. The next time is when we met in Parliament, and I was elected into Parliament in 1992. And at that time, there was a serious divide. If you were in the opposition, you were in the opposition, you had to oppose everything the government sponsored or anything the government came from the government. If you're in the government, likewise. Everybody in Parliament was literally either a Kanu hawk or an opposition hawk. He was one of the very few, extremely few, less than a handful, in the government those days that you could sit down with, engage, and talk as Kenyans and as parliamentarians, but not as somebody who comes from a certain persuasion. And if you convinced him, he will work with you. Together in ODM, again, when I was the Deputy Speaker, literally, the gentleman of our Parliament at that time, full of substance in terms of the areas that needed to be addressed on the floor of the House, but at the same time, is somebody you felt always a pleasure sitting down with and reasoning out with, because he will change your mind if he has such a powerful point. And the moment you are able to convince him on something, you'll get together again. And I don't remember Honorable Mudavadi at any time in the history of the House that I had noticed myself being ruled out of order. He will always be there and use basically the parliamentary traditions and the parliamentary practice, which means you don't have to call any names. Then we went out also campaigning, and exactly that was what it is, both in NASA and in ODM. Honorable Mudavadi is the quintessential politician we have had in this country, where always it is one against the other. The moment you are from a different region, from a different political persuasion, from a different party, everybody else is an enemy. They only becomes friends when you are trying to have a political conspiracy together. The last time, and the one I want to talk about, is when we had to arrive at the candidate for NASA, as a flag bearer for NASA. I was one person who was convinced that Mudavadi Kalonzo, whichever way you take it, Kalonzo Mudavadi or Mudavadi Kalonzo, would be the ticket that would take us to State House. In hindsight now, I know that it wouldn't have taken us to State House because it didn't make any difference whether we won or not. We all know that what happened, happened, and it was not the first time it happened in 2013 also, in 2007. But when we explained it to him, overwhelming persuasion, very technical, very, in a manner, statistical and the rest of it, in which we realized there was a gridlock and one had to give way. And with a chagrin, many of us said, okay, let's take it back to the leaders. He took it with a stride, a very powerful stride. I remember talking to him that morning. I talked to the other friends of mine, and but talking to him was like, no, let's sit together, whatever comes out of this, let's hope it's going to be good for the country and good for our success also. Mudavadi, you need to write another book again. You make us proud, those of us who had known you for all these years, because of what you stand for and what a politician is supposed to espouse. A nationalist patriot, a human being, a refined you don't have to be vulgar in our political landscape for you to make a point. You don't have to be always ethnically convinced for you to make a point originally. So I can only say, I'm not going to take long, but thank you very much for this book, and let's hope we get another book again sometime in the future.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I want to recognize the presence of former Cabinet Minister and MP for Webuye, Honorable Muskari Kombo, Bishop Hamala MP Lurambi, Honorable Dismas Baraza, MP Kimilili, who recently played a key role in the Kibra by-elections. Honorable Haruni Cheriot, Senator for Kericho, Professor Airo, who recently also had a stint as the Vice Chancellor of Moi University, Dr. Ayisi. Of course, in the House, we have Senior Counsel, Dr. Fred Ojiambo, who had a long stint also as the Chairman of the Law Society of Kenya in the 80s. We also have Professor Piolo Lumumba, who will be one of the keynote speakers. We have got Mr. Barack Muluka as well. Of course, we have the First Lady Tesi. We have Ford Kenya leader Moses Wetangula, our chief guest today, Ambassador Amina Mohammed, but they will be welcomed and introduced at an appropriate time by Honorable Mudavadi himself. I only have 2 speakers left to give very brief speeches because we are running out of time. On behalf of all those who have joined us this evening from the Mount Kenya region, I want to call upon Honorable Chris Murungaru, who is a former long-serving cabinet minister, to give a speech. Bwana Murungaru, please. Let's have some clap for Honorable Murungaru.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My brother MM and my younger brother Weta, all protocols observed. I honestly wasn't expecting to be recognized, but now that I have, I think I have to say the truth as I know it. I have known Honorable Mudavadi for now going to over 2 decades. And bearing in mind the difference between my age and his, that is a long time in his life. And during that time, I've come to appreciate 2 things about the gems, the value, the extremely valuable human capital that we have in this country. Honorable Mudavadi is a politician. Honorable Mudavadi is a husband, is a father, and is a friend. And a politician who is capable of keeping all those attributes even at par is a special person. Indeed, when I met Honorable Mudavadi for the first time, because I was the mtu wa mkono for the immediate former president, I looked at him, felt him, and I looked at my boss as I knew him, and I saw very, very many similarities. Honorable Mudavadi has written a book. I haven't read the entire book, but the portions that I have read speak to truth, speak to honesty, speak to facts. Honorable Mudavadi, I would like to assure you, because I know you didn't pretend in writing the book the words that you did. Those are the things that always stand. Everything else falls away, but the truth, facts, and honesty, integrity, they always remain standing. Honorable Mudavadi, you have got a long, long way to go. And may God bless you along that journey. The only thing I can perhaps add in finishing is that when you go visiting Mount Kenya region, I know you have seen that a lot of people seem to think that you are actually one of them, but you went astray towards the west. So when you are there, feel at home, come home. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, for this session, the last person I will call upon to speak is one person who perhaps understands and knows Musalia Mudavadi better than all of us. And this is Honorable Andrew Ligale, a former member of Parliament, a former long-serving Principal Secretary, Permanent Secretary, and also a member of the Cabinet. Karibu.
What a surprise. Mheshimiwa wetu mpendwa Mheshimiwa Musalia Mudavadi na familia yake, all guests who are here with us, all observed, we are indeed very happy to be here for the launching of this book. I've known this family for a long time. I worked with Mzee Moses Mudavadi for a long time, and when he passed on, we persuaded our young brother to stand, and he came to my house and we prayed for him, and I gave him a small thing to start him to do the campaign. And when he went to campaign, although I was a permanent secretary, I went and campaigned with him. And I was happy he was elected, and we have been together with the family all these years. In that book, which he has written very well, you'll find me there. I mentioned in many pages, even my photograph is there. I'm part of this family. And I know that this man has the capacity to lead this country. And I pray to God that he will open ways for him one of these days, and I hope in the near future, to lead this country. So I wish you all the best as you come to launch this book. We are proud of you, and we continue to be proud of you and your family. God bless you. Asante sana.
Thank you very much. I also wish to recognize the presence of Senator UDC Jen, who is also the Secretary General of the Wiper Party. We also have with us in the House Senator Wambua from Kitui, Senator for Kitui. And now I want to call none other than the Secretary General of the ANC Party, who today is with us as the writer of the book, Mr. Barak Muluka, to come and make his remarks. Karibu, Mr. Muluka.
Thank you very much, MC Eliud Owalo. I take note that the proceedings are misogynous. We have not had any lady speaking, so with your permission, allow me to just invite one of my counterparts, Judy Sijeni, to at least come and say something and greet us, to stay away from the baritones. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, she's the Secretary General of the Wiper Democratic Movement. Karibu.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Honorable Mudavadi, C.S. Amina, First Lady of ANC, Senior Counsel, Senator Wetangula, ambassadors, all ambassadors are present, and all protocols observed. I had seen my senior also, Senator Wako, Senator Jambo, and everybody. Actually, I had noticed that it's only the men who are speaking. I had taken note. I'm not going to say much. I'm still learning as a young lawyer and a politician, but you are indeed a good mentor, Honorable Mudavadi. I've seen the way you've carried yourself. Good politics. What we say, it's good politics. No insults, no unnecessary fists exchanged, and you're always there to guide the young politicians and anybody who comes near you, and always humble. Is accessible. You know, a leader who can be reached anytime is very important, and we thank you for that. Yes. I haven't read the book. I will read it. I know I'll learn a lot, and all of us will learn a lot from it. And I know it's not easy to sit down and think. Maybe with a little time I've had in politics, especially having tried Langata elections and not making it, I've also learned something. Maybe someday I'll also come and write my book. I won't take much of the time, but congratulations. And I know your dear lady, congrats. It's not easy to live with a politician. And I know you work very hard. You have the strength behind you, and just keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judy. Now I feel a little more comfortable. Allow me also, Madam CS, Chief Guest, and the honor of the occasion, Mheshimiwa Musalia Mudavadi, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, to also recognize another lady in the house. I will not invite her to come over. But it's important to recognize that the Deputy President of the Law Society of Kenya, Madam Harriet Shigai, is also here. Let's clap for her. Thank you. I'll try to be very brief. I could go on and on, because in my youthful years, I was trained and paid to be speaking. The days when I used to say, you listening to the voice of Kenya, you were actually not listening to Barack Mluka. Kenya was speaking and Kenya was listening. So I will avoid that today. I just want to say thank you very much to all of you for gracing this occasion. I say so because I have had the privilege of tarrying with Mheshimiwa Musalia Mudavadi for the past 5 years. It's been a very long journey. When we have gathered material for what has become the book that we are launching here this evening. Basically, mine is from the very outset, an appreciation of the various persons who have been very instrumental and integral to the process of making this book happen. I see Mzee Justus Mudavadi is here. Thank you very much. I remember the many hours that we sat with you digging into the past. I have read somewhere that this story is about 30 years. It is actually much, much longer than that. It goes way back to the pre-colonial times and comes up to the present day. It has had a lot of input from people who have got the institutional memory of this country and the various environments in which Mheshimiwa Mudavadi has had the opportunity to function. I'd like to thank especially Mheshimiwa Mudavadi, your family, Mama Tessie here, your children. You opened the doors for me and my team, allowed us to get into your home and homes, I should say. And for me, this has been a a very rewarding experience. In literature, we would say that I have enjoyed a vicarious experience as a writer. It has been an occasion when someone who has played on the national stage opened not just his space, not just the doors, as I have said, and the chambers, as I have said, but he bared his soul, his spirit, his essence, and received me in that space. At some point, our minds were flowing together crisply in time and space and becoming one tissue, one common tissue. There's a sense in which I have shared in his spirit, I've shared in his soul to be able to steer the ship up to where we got it. But I was not alone. There were other people who also assisted in the process. I'd like to recognize the role that was played by Neville Masika as one of our researchers. Lona Andisi was also very instrumental. Ken Ambani came in at some point. We had J.M. Kariuki, who was very, very instrumental. I wish to thank all of those people. I'd also like to thank in a very special way my self-effacing wife, Dorothy. She's somewhere here, and in her usual manner, she's keeping a very low profile. The writing of this book went into the wee hours. Sometimes I turned up at 3 o'clock a.m. and she persevered. I remember Mzee Nelson Mandela saying that throughout the time he had been out of prison, Mama Winnie never came to the bedroom when he was awake, and my wife could accuse me of never going to the bedroom when she was awake. Throughout the period that we have been writing the book, welcome, Mheshimiwa Martha Karua. And so we have done that which we have done, and we now leave it to those whose role it is to appreciate. We leave it to those whose role it is to celebrate, whose role it is to criticize, which is good. For the longest time, I have actually played the role of a critic. Occasionally, I play a role such as the one I have played of a co-writer, and occasionally in my own right as a writer. But most of the time, I'm a critic. And the critics are the people who stand outside the ring, like President Theodore Roosevelt said in his address at the University of Sorbonne in April 2010. There are those who stand outside the ring, watching what the strong man does and pointing out where the strong man stumbles. They're the ones who stay outside the ring and look at the doer of great deeds and say how the great doer of deeds could have done them better. Credit does not belong to the critic. Credit belongs to the man in the arena. That's what President Roosevelt taught us. And the writing of this book has brought this home to me more than ever before, that indeed it's not the critics who count, it is the man in the arena. We have been in this arena with Mheshimiwa Mudavadi, feeling the great strivings, feeling the great devotions. Yes, I must pause when yet another man in the arena arrives. Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka, let us celebrate him. Mheshimiwa Kalonzo, you have come in when I was talking about the man in the ring, the man in the arena, and many times you've been yourself a man in the arena, and there are those outside the arena who say where you have stumbled and who say where you would have done the great deeds better than you have done them. And so I just want to say, as I come to the conclusion, Mheshimiwa, and settle you down, that the man in the arena must never get tired of the great strivings, of the great devotions, regardless of what the naysayers out there may want to say. I'm aware as a Christian gentleman that I read what is called the gospel truth, and the gospel truth I read in 4 gospels. And sometimes the gospels render the happenings with different degrees of exactitude. It doesn't mean that Matthew is right while Mark is wrong. Luke has even said that he's compiling an orderly narrative, and he's sometimes different from John, the one who has christened himself the disciple whom Jesus loved. And so as you read this book, you may find certain things that you want to consider to be inexactitudes. You may want to consider to be different renditions of fact. You may want to say that the shoe remained in Garissa, or you may want to say that the shoe remained in Emmanuel. What does it matter? What it matters is that the shoe remained. And this we borrow from our good friend Deng Xiaoping. When he came from America, he said to Chairman Mao, if the mouse is the problem, what we need is a cat. And it doesn't matter what the color of the cat is. It may be a black cat, it may be a white cat, but if it is a cat, that is what we need. And so, thank you. I just want to congratulate Mheshimiwa once again. We have heard people talk about courage, saying that they don't have the courage. It's not the courage. It is the honesty. It is the honesty. And I have had the rare opportunity for an honest moment with Mheshimiwa Mudavadi, and I would urge that you remain on the honest path. And sometimes when you're on the honest path, you may make some mistakes. You may err. You may come short again and again. But there's no effort without error and without shortcoming. And in all this, take courage and solace in the knowledge that in the end, you're likely to celebrate the great triumphs. But even if you don't celebrate the great triumphs, citing again from President Theodore Roosevelt, at least you fail if you must fail, knowing that you are trying and that your place is not with those timid and cold souls who have never known the beauty of triumph and victory or the pain of loss and defeat. I thank you very much, and I wish you a Merry Christmas. A Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much, Barak. Barak is perhaps one of the most principled professionals I've ever worked with. I remember sometime 2013, we worked together. He was reporting to me in a political environment where we were serving Senator Wetangula and Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka. Then Barak one evening just told me out of the blues that, Eliud, this environment is not for professionals, I'm leaving. Then I told him, but Barak, we have got two of the most prominent lawyers here as the core principals and perhaps one of the most experienced engineers in this country. Then he told me, yes, they could be professionals, but they have not created an enabling environment for other professionals to work or to serve them. As fate would have it, here I am again today with Barack in ANC, and in the converse, he's now my boss, while I was his boss way back in 2013. I wish to recognize the presence of Wiper leader, Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, and also Mark Kenya leader, Honorable Martha Karua, perhaps one of the most prominent lawyers we have in this country, a human rights lawyer. I must also mention, with your permission, His Excellency Mudavadi, that I've had the opportunity to work with both Honorable Martha and Amina from a professional perspective. When Martha was the Minister for Justice and Amina was the PS Justice, I was the consultant for development of the strategic plan for the Ministry of Justice. And that strategic plan was voted the best from among all the ministerial strategic plans. And that is what gave birth to what you now see today as the Office of the Ombudsman, the Council for Legal Education. So, Senator Waku, some of us also understand law. Okay, now I'll call upon Senior Counsel Dr. Fred Ojiambo to come and give his remarks. Dr. Ojiambo, along serving chairman of the Law Society of Kenya in the 80s, and is also the one who authored the foreword for the book. Huh? Come again? Huh? Yeah. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you very much. All protocols observed. I don't like to repeat all these things because I quite often say the wrong thing. I'm just simply elated by the fact that Honorable Mudavadi has asked me to come and be part of this congregation. Wonderful congregation. And this, I think, is testament to the fact that he is the kind of man that he is. I first met him when I went to his office in Tyson's, and I was there for a few minutes. The next time I met him is when he contacted me with regards to a matter which was going on in the investigation which was known as Goldenberg. And I remember saying to him, don't know whether he recalls this, that just tell me the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so that I can do what I can do knowing what the truth is. And I said to him, I will not defend you, I will represent you. Because I believe very strongly that that was my job, to represent them, not to whitewash anybody, but to represent them firmly and strongly. In my times with him, as we prepared, as we talked about things, as we looked at the material, as I looked into some of the matters that Kiprono was talking about, Kiprono Chesram, I call him Kiprono because that's what we used to call him in school. As we looked through that, I realized that I was dealing here not with a man of great reputation, and that he did have, but a man of character. And that, I think, is what we have in short supply. Men and women of character. We have lots of people with a lot of reputation, but very short on character. And that's why, when he asked me to do the foreword, it was my joy and privilege to do it. Thank you very much, Musalia. God bless.
Thank you very much. Finally, within that category, ladies and gentlemen, I want now to call upon perhaps one of the most